Hey everyone, welcome to Listen, Love, Connect. Today we'll be teaching you about grounding and some grounding techniques you can use with Somi. All right, let me pull her up. She should be coming on pretty soon. I just invited her. Hi, Somi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, actually. How are you?
Good. How's your heart? I'm going to use the question you used.
How's my heart? So I tend to be very intentional with my words and actually really, because we tend to answer just to give an answer. So I have to check in, and it's a good check-in question. Now I feel like I'm in therapy.
Oh no.
Which is great. I love it when a client is giving you back your stuff. How is my heart? Let me check in. It's calm and it's at peace.
That's good.
Now good. I'm returning the question to you. How is your heart?
Well, whenever I get on these calls, I'm super nervous, so it's like pumping like crazy.
Okay.
But beforehand, it was pretty good.
It was pretty good? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
I got prepared for this question this time.
Said it again?
I said I got prepared for this question this time. Checking in.
Well, you know how I like to, catch people off guard all the time because,
yes.
Switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm glad, for us to be here together again, and just looking forward to this much needed dialogue. A lot of people have asked questions about this particular topic that we're going to talk about today, so I'm excited to kind of get in there.
Yeah. So me and Somi a lot of times use technical terms. Well, it's not really technical terms, but terms that most people don't know. And the one that we use quite often is grounding. And we've been getting a lot of questions on what is grounding. And we kind of went over it last week with our Q&A, but today we're going to go deep into it and actually do some grounding techniques with all of you.
Yes. So to kind of get started, we're talking about grounding. And obviously a lot of people are like, what is grounding? So I always tell people, yes, I went to school for mental health, the whole nine. But what I've come to realize in just all my work, 15 plus years now, is that all this technical jargon that we use just does not resonate with people. Right. And it goes over their heads. It's not relatable. So the element is about, getting people to not just understand, but to relate to what you're saying. So when we talk about grounding, we're talking about from a very basic level, is just coming back into the present moment. So for years, but now it's shifting a bit. The whole concept of grounding has been that it's for anxiety and it's for PTSD. But I tell people, and I tell many of the people that I work with, it's not just for that. It's for any time that you feel that you are not in the present moment, or you are having any distressing emotions or thoughts. And it's just the element of coming back into the present moment. So that is like a very basic general view of what grounding is. It's also a balancing. When we talk about grounding, it's balancing the physical, the emotional, and the mental, like getting all those aspects to have some element of balance to them simultaneously and reconnect. So again, when we talk about this grounding, even, as we go through this, I want people to take away that it's just this element of anxiety or PTSD. And for those of you on here that don't know what PTSD is, that's post-traumatic stress disorder. But the reason why I say just take that aside is that it's just coming back into the present moment. And what a time we are in now, where
Yeah.
everybody needs to be more present in the moment. And that's even the element, and we're going to have a discussion about this in another segment about mental illness, mental health, mental wellness. So we're talking about mental wellness now when I talk about grounding more in a general sense, as opposed to when you're having anxiety or when you're having flashbacks or when you're having this. It's just doing these things on a daily basis to ensure that you are mentally well. So I wanted to ask you, obviously, we've now been working together for almost 2 years. When was the first time you heard about grounding?
The first time I heard about grounding was from NRAPE on campus. I don't remember the girl's name because my mom talked to her a lot, but she's the one who introduced us to grounding and shows us the 4 senses grounding, 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, stuff like that. And that's the one we mainly use in the household for grounding, other than the ones that you've shown us with controlled breathing and
yeah. So one of the things about grounding is that there's so many ways to ground yourself. I know that when I was doing the mental wellness challenge, one of the posts the challenges that really got a lot of response was the grounding one. I remember a friend of mine specifically said, this post literally helped keep my sanity because I gave 10 different ways throughout your day that you can use as a way to bring yourself back into the present. And so having said that, I wanted you to talk a little bit about the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I believe that's the one you're specifically talking about. And it's also the one that you introduced in the Q&A last week. So it's 5 things you see.
Yes.
It's 4 things you feel.
Correct.
3 things you hear. 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you can taste. So there it is again for everybody. So kind of walk the audience through what that looks like. If you're going to do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, what would that look like?
So for 5 things I see, I would say I see Monroe. I see Somi on my phone. That's 2. I see my water bottle, my lamp, and then I see my whiteboard in the back. That's 5 things I see.
Right.
Go ahead.
So 4 things you feel.
4 things I feel the paper in my hand. I feel the chair that I'm on. I feel my legs crossed. And I feel my carpet.
Okay.
So it's just simple things.
Right. Go ahead.
Oh, and then 3 things you hear. I hear my clock going. I hear my voice. I hear the wind outside. And then 2 things I smell. When I do this part, because sometimes it's hard to smell anything, my mom puts together an essential oil blend, and I have the spray, and most of the time I'll just spray that in the air, and since it's a blend, I could smell peppermint and lavender.
Okay.
So that helps. I don't smell anything right now because I don't have anything going. And then for 1 thing you taste, sometimes you don't taste anything, so we substitute it. And this is what the gal taught us when we first learned it, was 1 thing you feel good about yourself that you did today.
Yeah. So here's something that is interesting to kind of switch a little bit with the taste aspect of it, is that, I tell people, just get a sense of what is kind of swarming around in your mouth. So again, all those things bring you into a present moment. And that's the idea, because when we are having anxiety, when we're having a distressing emotion, when we're having flashbacks, whatever is going on, from a mental health standpoint, it's taking you out of the present moment. Whether it's putting you in the past or in the future, it's definitely not putting you in the present moment. So the idea for anything grounding is to bring you back into the present moment. Right. So here's another one. I didn't introduce you to this one because I felt it was a bit redundant in my work with you, but I've used it with other people. It's called the 333. And it's
Okay.
3 things you see, 3 things you hear, and move your body in 3 ways. So
Okay.
when you just use, it's like people don't have to remember 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's just 3s.
Right.
See, hear, and then move your body. And so I know that with some of the children that I've worked with over the years, I've used this with them because children, especially when it comes to movement, that's natural for them.
Yes.
Getting
Yeah.
a child to sit still a lot of times is like so I tell them, okay, show me 3 things you see, and they're like, boom, boom, boom. 3 things you hear. That oftentimes can get a little tricky, but a lot of times they do it. And then once you come into moving your body, oh my gosh, that's like, a dance party. I'm like,
Yeah.
wiggle your ears, and they start laughing and all of that. And so even that, again, brings the body, brings the mind into the present moment. And that's what the whole aspect of that. Now,
And it's so crucial.
right. And one of the things that I do want to mention about the importance of grounding. So we have a hormone called serotonin in our body. And it's our happiness hormone. Now, if you talk to most people that suffer from depression, almost all depression medication has a serotonin uptake. Okay, which means that it's supposed to increase your serotonin level. So a lot of times what you find, you have a chemical imbalance, not all the time, but whether it's Prozac or Lexapro, most of the depression medication have a serotonin uptake. So what it is that your serotonin level is low, and they're trying to raise it up to, because it's your happiness, feel good hormone. And so when you do grounding exercises consistently, it increases your serotonin uptake naturally. So instead of having to take, I'm not saying, for some people, you're going to need that medication to kind of stabilize you because maybe your depression is of a different spectrum. So please don't take this as I'm saying, don't take your meds, or I'm against medication.
This is all to add to your treatment.
Exactly. So the reality is a lot of stuff our body already creates. So serotonin is already created in our body. So when we do grounding exercises, it stabilizes and increases your serotonin levels. The other thing is grounding exercises increase your immune system. And what a better time than now during COVID, do we not need our immune system to be working as it's supposed to?
Yes.
So that's another thing that happens when you consistently doing grounding exercises. And the other hormone that is created in your body. So with serotonin, we want it to be stabilized or high.
Right.
Cortisol is the other hormone that we create. That's our stress hormone. So when you have an overabundance of cortisol, it's like you're pumping like the stress hormone in your body. So we need that to be lower. And so what that does is it improves your cortisol level, the release of it, where it's not an overabundance of it.
Right.
In addition to that, the use of grounding exercises helps with putting illnesses at bay, because if your immune system is good, then you're less likely to fall sick often. And then the last thing is, and this is something that I don't think that a lot of people are aware of, we have a circadian rhythm. And our circadian rhythm is what ensures that we get good sleep. And that's a whole different segment of its own of really explaining that. But again, based on whether anxiety, PTSD, depression, distressing emotions, whatever is going on for us, our circadian rhythm gets affected. And so when we are engaging in a lot of grounding exercises, it stabilizes that as well. So given all those things that I just mentioned, Savannah, have you seen an improvement in any of these different areas for yourself?
I use a ton of other stuff too with it, of course, like Calm and all that. But yeah, I mean, you see an improvement. You it makes you make it makes you make sure that you stay in the present and not think of anything else, which I have a lot of issues with because of my PTSD, because I always go back to that day. But
Mm-hmm.
when you do the grounding exercises, it really makes you plant your feet in the ground that you are currently in rather
Mm-hmm.
than in the past.
Absolutely. So
Mm-hmm.
again, the idea with all of this and having these conversations is about mental wellness.
Yep.
Yes, there are people that are mentally ill. There are people that are mentally healthy, but the consistency of doing these grounding exercises moves you into a space of mental wellness. Now, the other thing from a grounding perspective that I think is good, my son did this with me the other day. So he was having a distressing emotion. Something happened, it triggered him, and he was having a hard time navigating it. And so I just kind of stopped, because
Mm-hmm.
the other thing to realize is that when people are in distress, the left side of your brain is your logical side. The right side of your brain is your emotional side. When you are in extreme distress, this side of your brain shuts down. This is a neurological fact. When this shuts down, this is overactive. The only way you reactivate this part of the brain is you have to bring this part of the brain down, and you have to essentially ground it. You have to let it know there is no alarm. There's no reason to be in hypervigilance or to, be in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, any of the, trauma responses. Now, we're going to talk about one of the other things that, you and I have done quite often, but I wanted to mention this, especially for children. So what he did, I said to him, I got quiet. I gave him time, because the talking sounds like, womp womp, think of Charlie Brown. If you ever have somebody that is in a distress, the worst thing you can do is keep talking.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they're in distress, we see this a lot of times. The best way or analogy I can, put this in, frame it, is a toddler having a tantrum. If you've ever seen a toddler having a tantrum, they're like flaring their arms and they're crying. And what do? We want to talk to them and somehow get them to calm down. And we see time and time again that does not work, because the linguistic side of their brain, which is the left side of the brain, has shut down. We have to reactivate it. So what do? We have to find grounding ways to bring them back into the present moment, and to let them know that whatever the danger or the alarm that they're feeling emotionally is not happening, is not real, or is not happening currently. So with my son, I got quiet. I didn't do a whole bunch of talking. I just got very quiet. I sat with him, or stayed with him in his distress. And you will see it. You will see them kind of slowly starting to come back into the present, but they may not fully be there. And I said to him, it looks like you're still very distressed. Now, I say this because I'm a mother that has taught my son grounding techniques ever since he was like 16 months old. So he's well aware, and he has that tool set. So for a parent that hasn't taught their child grounding techniques, or for an adult that doesn't know about this, you may, especially with children, you may have to help them. But with my son, what I said to him, I said, what do you think may be helpful in this moment? And he said, Mommy, I think if I run my hand under some water, that may help. So he went, he turned off the water, and normally it's cold water, because that's what normally does work. And he put his hand under the cold water, and that brought him back and awakened him into the present moment. And then he was able to come back fully. And then we were able to talk about what triggered him, what happened, and then have a safety plan. You know,
Yeah.
what can we do next, you know, to be proactive and preventative next time? And you and I have talked about this, and this is probably another segment all on its own, triggers, identifying triggers and having a safety plan for when you know you're going to get triggered. So that's one grounding technique, is just putting your hand under cold water, holding ice.
Yeah.
Is another good grounding technique. It automatically brings your body back into the present moment. Here's a really good one, and I want you to kind of talk about this, the breathing. So for you, one of the things that I introduced to you, like right off the bat when we started working, was coherent breathing.
Yep.
But now and at that time we did a 4-4 breathing technique.
Yes, you called it square breathing?
Yes, square breathing. So we have now expounded on that. Most people do the 4-4. They do the 4-7-8, which is you breathe in for 4, you hold for 7, and you exhale for 8. Now, what I found professionally and what we have now incorporated for Exceptional Heroes, you know, your device, is that for people, a lot of people that went through a very traumatic situation, they were holding their breath. Think about it. A lot of people that had to disassociate or close their eyes. So especially for sexual assault victims, there were times where they held their breath. So holding their breath is a trigger. So you don't want to re-trigger people, or you don't want to re-traumatize people. So
like laying on your back or closing your eyes.
Exactly. And we talked about that last time. So you want to shift away from the 4-7-8. So do you want to talk to them a bit about what the new form, which is not readily accepted, but it's actually from a neurological standpoint is more effective than most people? What is that technique that we are using now?
So we breathe in for 4 and we breathe out for 8. I'm still training my lungs for the breathe out for 8, which has been very difficult, I'm going to tell you, but it's been working. And it's hard to get, because I've been using, well, we've known each other for almost 2 years now, like you said, so I've been using the 4 in, 4 out for that amount of time. So it's just retraining mine, but it's been working so far.
Right.
And 4 in, 8 out.
Right.
And do you want me to go over the different ways of breathing?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So you breathe in through your nose, and you can breathe out through your mouth. Somebody also taught me, and I remember learning this when I was in college, was, it reminds me of picking my nose, but where you breathe in, and is it where you switch nostrils?
Yep.
Yep. So you breathe in 4 here. I'm not doing it correctly right now. And then you go the other side and breathe out.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 ways, correct?
Yep. And that's actually for people that are in extreme distress. That form of breathing will automatically bring you back. It will send, it's almost like, I don't know, it's a miracle medicine, you know, created by your body, sends the central nervous system to tell you you're not in danger, everything's okay, and it automatically brings you down. Now, even with the breathing, one of the things I tell people is like Savannah was saying, she's been doing the 4-4 for a long time, and you may have to work through it, you know, start the 4-4, go to a 4-6 before you and work up to a 4-8. But the greatest advice I can give people regarding breathing fully is not so much like, because that can even bring stress. You're like, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? Or, you know, I didn't breathe in for 4. And I'm like, everything is a progression. You know, start where you are. And for me, it's making sure you do 10 rounds as opposed to if you did it perfectly. Because it's the repetition of the breathing that brings the calm, as opposed to, you know, did I do this perfectly? Hello, Stella. So that is very, very important. Is to don't think, and in everything we talk about, it's a progression. I feel like we put so much, we create additional anxiety for ourselves when people suggest things and like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing this perfectly. She said do 4 in and 8 out, and I'm doing, and I'm like, that just doesn't bring calm. That does not.
No. You're doing the opposite.
It's the opposite. So, work towards it and, take it slow. The Apple Watch, it's interesting, has this new reminder to breathe. And it gives you, the 4 in, the 4 out. And so even that, setting another challenge I gave during the mental wellness challenge was the breathing, but, and like almost until you get better at it, scheduling times during your day to actively breathe. I remember when I was being trained for mindfulness cognitive behavioral therapy, which was developed by Jon Kabat-Zinn. Gosh, what is this? Almost like 8 years ago.
Wow.
We called it 1 minute to 3 minute breathing spaces. So every hour you would take a 1 minute to 3 minute breathing spaces, because as we're talking right now, we are definitely breathing.
Right.
If we weren't breathing,
right.
If we weren't breathing, we won't be here. However, it's not intentional. It's not conscious. So it's not you focusing on the breath and specifically saying to your brain, I'm sending this message for you to calm down. I'm sending this message to bring some element of peace and calm into the day or into the experience.
And the breathing we're doing right now is more of survival.
Yes, exactly.
Rather than bring yourself to the present and calm your mind. Correct.
Now, another thing, grounding exercise that's really good is going for a walk. I feel like if you're able to go for a walk, take off your shoes and really touch the earth, that's even better. That's the best things, because it takes the grounding exercise of walking a step further. It's like your feet are literally touching the earth and grounding yourself. I know that when we were in COVID, in lockdown here in New York from March to June, one of the things they did recommend is like, don't go out if you don't need to, but go out for some fresh air and for some exercise. Because it was springtime, weather was getting warmer, and here we were like in lockdown, in full lockdown. And, New York was in lockdown far longer than any other place, because last year, this time, we were, the epicenter of the pandemic. So even that element, and I know for people that are depressed, that can get hard. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want, even though the weather is nice, you don't have it in you to go and, to go for that walk and to find that element of grounding. So that's why we recommend a whole bunch of other different things that can be done if that is not available to you at that moment. Like you don't have it in you to do that. You talk a little bit about that. How many times, like earlier on, I'd be like, Savannah, part of your treatment, was, I would say, do your calm, do your breathing, and I want you to get outside for 30 minutes every day.
That was a chore. I hated it. But on that regard, towards the walking, it got easier. But walking's never been my thing. Mm-hmm. So I came to Somi and I said, Somi, can I ride my bike? My bike has always been my outlet, because even before my my trauma, when I was in college, and my roommate was an awful roommate, and so sometimes I needed to go out, but it wouldn't be safe to go walk around at dark in Colorado. So I rode my bike.
Right.
And so Somi was like, yeah, ride your bike. And riding my bike is a lot more effective for me, because I feel the wind when I'm biking, that also helps with grounding because you're feeling something going through you. And then you're also having to pay attention that you keep pedaling your bike, you keep pedaling, and you're watching out for different things. So you're staying in the present. But walking was a struggle for me for a while until I got used to it. Now I try to go on walks every night with my dogs, or I go biking.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the dogs. I know that when I worked in a residential psychiatric facility for children and adolescents almost 8-9 years ago, that was my first introduction to animal therapy. And I remember there was a dog. Her name was Shelby. And it was amazing to see how Shelby would come and she would just walk into my office and she would sit next to any of my clients that was in distress. She wouldn't, there was no barking, there wasn't anything. And just her presence. And then the client would start stroking her, or sometimes Shelby was big, so it's not like you could put her on her lap. But they would get on the floor with her. They would sit next to her and start stroking her, and we would have our therapy session like that. And in that moment, that's when I realized that was a grounding technique.
Yeah.
The fact that they were feeling something,
right?
So pets become a form of grounding you. You know, we always say, you know, dogs are man's best friends, but, you know, cats can be man's best friends too. Whatever the pet is, or a pig, or, you know,
rabbit.
Whatever, you know, a rabbit, Monroe. So it's just that element of whatever that pet is, especially for children. That pet brings them back into the present moment, whether they're stroking it or they're playing with it or the pet is just staying by their side. So that's another form of grounding. So, you know, talk a little bit about, you know, having Monroe, and you got to tell me.
My animal, all my funny zoo.
Animals' names.
My funny farm. So, funny you say that too about the animal therapy. So, as some of you know, I do training and do a lot with animal-assisted therapy. But before COVID and all that, Monroe and all my animals would go to a ranch that dedicated its time to special needs adults who lived in a home. And what we do is we don't do animal-assisted therapy because none of us are certified therapists. So we do animal-assisted activities. And it's where you do stuff with the animals, and one of them is walking, and they have miniature horses, donkeys, my rabbits and stuff and dogs, and we walk around the whole ranch, and we do that a couple of times until some of them have hard time walking and stuff, and then that's where Miss Maisel comes in, because Miss Maisel is not much of a walker, so. When I have Miss Maisel, we sit in an area and we just let them talk to us and talk to the animals. Most of the time they're talking to the animals, but you get a sense of how they're feeling and stuff like that. And it's really enjoyable to watch them connect with the animals that way, with also grounding.
Got it. So, yeah, I mean, again, you know, the idea is to ensure that you're just coming back into the present and connecting, and whatever you can use to initiate that or activate that is really what it comes down to. So we're giving some examples here. These are not exhaustive. These are just some, you know, that I've used, other people have used, you've used. But I encourage everybody to just kind of assess their lives and have a feel of like, what are certain things that you do every day that just bring you back in the present? I'll give you an example. Like, I don't like clutter. So one of my grounding techniques is cleaning my apartment. When I clean, it brings me into the present.
Like my mom.
It creates element of mental space. as I'm creating, physical space. The other thing that I want to talk about, because this was also a huge hit during the Mental Wellness Challenge, is moving to music, dancing.
Yes.
So that, I don't know, in addition to it being a mood booster, literally as you're dancing and moving, you're releasing endorphins and you're increasing serotonin level and you're decreasing cortisol level. That is really a huge grounding exercise. And it's, my son and I think several dance parties a day. It's like part of, it gets the body moving. It releases a lot of stress. It boosts the mood. And I'm not talking about playing, because somebody asked me the other day. I'm like, don't play music that is going to aggravate you.
No, don't do that.
That defeats the purpose. It's like, play feel good music and, move and just, be silly with it. A friend of yours, you guys got on there and did some dancing. How was that? Talk a bit about that.
That was fun. That was really fun. And I was going to say, when I first came home, I didn't, Monroe has been a big part of my grounding exercises, but when he wasn't here, we would, my sister and I would do music therapy, we would call it. And we would blast our music that we loved, and we would just dance, sing, and then my mom would come and join us. She's like, what's happening? We're like, we're just letting loose. But I wanted to talk about in cases of when you need a ground, but you can't. Mm-hmm. So recently, I did the pre-launch for my product that's coming out. Mm-hmm. And I had when I was saying all this stuff, it was very triggering for me because it was my first time on video saying it. And so when I was there, I couldn't have my bells on because you would see the earplugs in my ears. And there were certain things that I couldn't do. So what I had was Monroe, who is trained in this area. He was actually sitting in my lap the whole time. And none of you could see him because of how the angle was. And he was licking me the whole time, keeping me in the present while I was filming. And so for anyone who can't listen to music or anything like that, find something that is going to help ground you. I don't know if you have any tips. I know Velcro helps me. The hook part, the rough part, helps me sometimes when I don't have anything else. Do you have any tips on that?
So what Savannah is describing is she was talking. So that normally I tell people the most accessible, most valuable tool for grounding that you have is breathing. You can do it without anybody knowing that you're breathing. Like, there are times when I'll be talking to people and I feel like the conversation is getting a little heated. I've been in Zoom calls where, they're just talking and it's getting very contentious. And in order for me to stay in a space of clarity, I start to breathe. They have no clue what I'm doing, but I start to breathe to ensure that I stay and I don't take on that energy. Because that's another thing that we do and that we don't realize. We take on the energy of the environment that we're in and the people we're around. And sometimes it has nothing to do with us. So our anxiety is not ours. It's somebody else's anxiety that we have now taken on. Definitely for people that receive energy in that way. So if you're not talking and you're able to do this, the go-to is your breathing. 4-4 if you can, 4-8 if you can. For those of you that are able to do a 4-7-8, you could do that. But any form of breathing for at least 10 rounds, minimum 10 rounds, is what is going to bring you to a place of, bring you back into the present and calm your neurological central nervous system. Now, if you're talking, you had mentioned Monroe, having a pet around is definitely a good thing. But let's say that you're in a meeting, let's go back to pre-COVID and you're in a meeting, and obviously you can't have your dog there or your
Right.
your rabbit there. So it's like, what the heck is going on when it comes to that? But so in those moments, I have chakra beads that I wear. For some
That's
people
right.
don't believe in that or think that it has some, but the reason I bring up the chakra beads, we talked about this, and it's something
Yeah.
that they now have these beads that you can put essential oils in it.
Lava rocks.
So even if you are not a believer in the chakras or what, a regular bracelet that has the ability for you to put essential oils, especially lavender. Lavender is huge for just calming. And you smelling that, the smell of lavender automatically brings you down. So that's something that you could have that nobody. Now, will people be able to smell the lavender? Absolutely. And hopefully it'll calm everybody else down too.
Just bring everyone to a halt and peace.
So that's another, quick thing you can use is the essential oils. Another thing that I think, can be helpful is just having something that, people use stress balls, like you said, the Velcro. One of the great things about the Exceptional Hero product, it's going to have all of these things in one. So it's like your ultimate grounding therapeutic device. It has the breathing element. It has the touch element, element to it. It has the essential oils element to it. And then more importantly, it's a comfort. It has the weighted blanket element to it. It's something that you can hold that's comforting. So for children, it's amazing because it's all inclusive. Like, you don't have to have the chakra bracelets. You don't have to have essential oils. You don't have to have a pet. You don't have to look at all these things all in one. So that's, one of the beauties of that product. But even when I say about, just the dance party, I can't emphasize the grounding element of music. There's animal therapy, there's music therapy.
Yep.
And I don't know, I tell people all the time, I just did this with my son. It takes a while, but we sat there and we created his playlist. His grounding playlist. I was like, we have a dance, songs that just bring him joy, songs that kind of bring him calm. And, for a lot of parents, they're like, I don't have time to sit there and create a playlist. And I'm like, well, you don't have to do it all at once,
Right.
Just add to it, whether daily, weekly, monthly, however. But you having a playlist, your child having a playlist is going to be essential, because even the music creates memories for us. And so those memories, when they're good memories, take us into that aspect that is, essential. And someone just said art therapy. Absolutely.
Yes.
I totally agree with that. It's something I introduced with my son. I mean, we've always done art, but we've delved more into it. Not so much from a therapeutic standpoint, but a mental wellness standpoint. It was like at least once or twice in the day, I was giving him an opportunity to express himself artistically. And there was no judgment of what it looked like. Sometimes it was abstract. Sometimes it was concrete. It doesn't really matter. But in that moment, as you are stroking or in creating, you are present. And again, the whole aspect is a grounding element. I have a niece. We just had the most amazing conversation maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And she was feeling a lot of distressing emotions and just feeling kind of out of touch. And she's very artistically inclined. And she's like, I'll just express this on my canvas. And she showed me the beginning stages of what she was doing. And I was just like blown away and I said, how do you feel now? And she's like, getting that out and seeing that represented kind of helped to kind of bring clarity. So, you know, thank you to, you know, Bright Moon for mentioning that. Art therapy works well as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yes.
let's talk exercise.
Ay, ay, ay.
Well, it's interesting that you have that response. When I say let's dance, people don't realize that that's a form of exercise. So
That's
I
true.
tell people exercise should be something that is enjoyable to you. Don't make it this chore.
Right.
Whatever
Yes.
is really enjoyable that gets your body moving, just do more of that. Do
Yes.
more of it for at least 45 minutes in the day, 30 minutes, whatever the case may be. Get other people to join you in, you know, whatever that is. So if it's dancing, I mean, that's a good form of exercise. Bike riding,
Yeah.
you know, so it doesn't have to be you're going for a run, you're, you know, getting on some kind of exercise machine. But talk a little bit about, you know, when I would use that word and how it was a trigger for you.
I am not a big fan of exercise. I'm not. Okay. My cousin and my sister, they like jujitsu. They do swim. My sports was showing my rabbits at fair for FFA. I mean, so I'm more of book and let's sit on the couch than that. But you gotta find what you like in exercise and not look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So like the biking, I never really thought of it as exercise because I enjoy it and I like the movement of it, really.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And with dancing, you have music blasting. You're doing what you want. You're not restricted to a way of losing weight or fitness.
yeah.
You're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think of it as not that way and more of mentally helping yourself and finding something enjoyable. So for someone, it might be biking or dancing. For others, it might be a run. I know when I used to go to the gym, I liked the leg bench presses because, I mean, it's similar to the bike where I'm using my legs more than my upper body strength.
Yeah.
So you just gotta go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish.
I was just gonna say you just gotta find what you enjoy, not look at it as a chore, and not look at it as you're trying to lose weight or in that aspect.
Absolutely. Yeah, I almost feel like at times I don't even want to use that word exercise because it's a trigger for people. It brings back failures. It brings back this whole aspect of anxiety, of, you know, you're working towards some kind of a goal. And I'm like, no. We're just trying to, and so I even tell people just stretching. So I'm, you know, certified in yoga. I've been a yoga practitioner since 2002. So for me, even yoga and just forms of stretching, people don't realize this. Yoga can be very much exercise, you know. But even when I think of that, I'm just talking about moving your body. However you're going to move your body. Yeah. Cleaning your house is moving your body. You know, the whole element is not to be so stationary. You know, for every hour that you're sitting or stationary, you just get up and move, do something, you know. A lot of us are, you know, watching a lot of movies or watch some shows. There are times where I will watch part of my shows, or if I'm watching something important, I'm doing it standing up and I'm doing it moving. So that's just the element of it is just continuing that. So, you know, as we try, you know, bring this kind of to a close, if you will, again, the idea for some of you that are coming on later, we're talking about grounding exercises. We're talking about grounding as a form of mental wellness. So we have given the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have given the 3, 3, 3. We have given holding ice, putting your hand on the cold water. We have given the option of taking a walk, stretching your body, listening to music, dancing, being close to a pet, riding a bike, putting your feet on the earth. So again, these are all just some and a few ways to ground. Cleaning, someone mentioned. If I could say this, my hope is that in your everyday life, not just, again, we're trying to be proactive and preventative instead of reactive. If you could pick one or two or three of these things and they become part of your everyday functioning, that's what you want to get into. Because what I'm seeing a lot is like, oh my gosh, somebody's having an anxiety attack. Let's do this grounding exercise, or let's do this. And I'm like, no, I want us to kind of have our grounding tank full. Yeah. So that when something does happen, we're not functioning or reaching from a depleted standpoint. It's like, okay, I already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So if you're going, I guarantee you, this I know for a fact, if for every hour that you are awake, you take a 1 to 3 minute breathing space, I guarantee you that you will be in a mentally and emotionally better space throughout the day. And if you make that an everyday activity, you will see how much focused you are, how calm you are. It just moves you into a mentally well space consistently. So if the only thing you can do in this moment is breathe, because that's something we're already doing, that's a good start. It's a really good start. And then the other things you can incorporate slowly. So as we end, somebody mentioned this, and I think it's a good idea, is to show people the breathing. So I want you to do we're going to do the 4-4, and then we're going to do the 4-8. And I know that you are still practicing. How about you do the 4-8 with me, and I'll do the 4-4 with you?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I want you to be comfortable. Make sure that your back is straight. The biggest thing that people do is they restrict their breathing. You can't breathe effectively if you are restricted, and you are not effective breathing. I know I'm leaning back. That is not a good position. You want to be how Savannah is and how her back is straight. Now, somebody can say, well, what if I have back issues or whatever the case may be? Get a pillow, put it behind you. Whatever assistance you need to ensure that you give your back support is what you do, whatever you need. But you want the flow of breath to be unrestricted. And so once you get in that position, obviously we're not going to spend too much time in this, but I do want this, I thought that was a good thing that someone mentioned. So the idea, I'll explain it, and then I'm going to take Savannah through it, is you're going to breathe in for 4, a count of 4, and then you're going to breathe out for a count of 4. But before you do that, you just want to start becoming aware of your breath. And then I'm going to slowly get you. So what I will say to Savannah is I just want you to start now being aware of your breath. So be aware of your breath and how you're breathing.
Do I start 4 now?
No. I just want you to be aware of your breath, and then I'm going to walk you through it.
Okay.
And I want you to be aware of when you're breathing in and when you're breathing out. And try and slow that down as possible without forcing it. And now I want you to breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Again, breathing in, 2, 3, 4. And breathing out, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do it one more time. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4. Now, I should mention this. If you do this the right way, you will get most people, especially if you're have insomnia or you struggle with sleeping, you will get sleepy. Yep. And that's okay. It's an indication that your body's telling you that this is what you need, that it's been on overdrive and this is, you're feeding it. So if you do get very calm where you get sleepy, that's an indication. I need you to listen to that and, you know, go and rest if you can. All right. You want to get me?
You're aware of your breath? You're making sure you're breathing in slow. Okay, I'm going to start counting. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And one more time.
I'm gonna do this.
Am I fast?
I want people.
Am I fast?
Huh?
Am I fast?
No. But I want people, because when people breathe, they do this. And I want everyone to watch my collar. People do this. And do you see how, like, I just raised myself? That's not deep breathing. I think it's shoulder breathing, but it's not deep breathing. So when you breathe, it shouldn't be you lifting. It should be an element. If you watch, and Savannah will take me through, I want you to watch my collarbone and you watch what is happening. I would, in a different setting, show you my belly, because that's another indication. With my son, I used to use these breathing buddies, and I would put it on his stomach to give him an indication that he was breathing properly. So when you breathe in,
showed me that.
It's a filling in of your lungs, and when you breathe out, it's kind of it's like your stomach expands, and then it decreases again. So I want you guys to watch my collarbone. So Savannah, take me through it again.
Okay. Ready? 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. You okay?
Did we get lost?
You did.
Okay. I'm back. Okay. Let's go through it again. Here we go.
Okay. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Again, right. I think for some reason something is happening with my end of the connection. Do it again.
Okay. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay. So when you are doing the 2, 3, 4 is your breathing in.
Mm-hmm.
The 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is your breathing out. That's if you're doing the 4, 8 count. If you're doing the 4, 4 count, it's 2, 3, 4 in, 2, 3, 4 out. And again, for people that having to think about the counting, I suggest, and this is a great thing that Exceptional Heroes is going to do, you're going to have bells to it. So it tells you when to breathe in and when to breathe out, and it does the counting for you. So all you have to do is just pay attention to the breathing, like the switching of the bell. So when the bell goes this way, it goes for 4, and then when it goes this way, it goes for 8, and you just have to follow the bells. And that way you don't have to remember, oh, did I miss a count or any, because that always messes people up. And so even with you, when I first introduced you to it, I used bells. I said, when the bell is high, breathe in for 4. When the bell is low, breathe in for 4. And that's how you kind of, so that your mind, you can focus on your breathing and where your mind is going.
Right. Instead of counting.
So if the greatest thing we can give you guys in this session as we wrap up is that breath. I can't emphasize it. It's like the greatest medicine that is available, but is not told. It's like, seriously, I can't emphasize this enough. I don't know how many clients I've just said, we're just going to, all I want you to do is for the next few weeks, just do this breathing exercise. And that alone helps them, decreases their level of anxiety, distressing moments, everything, if you just consistently make that a part of your life. And like I said, you're already breathing. All you have to do now is just pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for this time, Somi. Next week, we will be doing a Q&A again. So you can DM either one of us, comment when I post this video, and then I'll be having a Ask Me Anything in my story where you can ask questions and we will answer them next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for watching, and always remember, listen, love, connect.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.